UFC 244, Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal. One of the most anticipated fight of this whole entire year. So much to talk about, but let's start things off with Nate Diaz. Now, there's some fighters that the moment you hear their name, you immediately think about something very specific. An example is Damian Maia. When you hear the name Damian Maia, right away you're thinking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You're thinking about grappling. You hear a name like Francis Ngannou, and right away you're thinking about brain-shattering power. Now, when you hear the name Nate Diaz, usually you think about two things immediately. The first thing you think about is his chin, his incredible chin and durability. And second thing that you think about is his conditioning. These are the two things that anyone that fights Nate Diaz is going to have to deal with, period. Now, if you are a dominant wrestler, if you have very good wrestling skills and you have very good top pressure on top, like someone like Rory McDonald that can consistently take Nate Diaz down and you're able to avoid getting submitted on the ground, yes, you can kind of bypass the whole chin and you can bypass the conditioning because you can kind of smother him and prevent him from fighting that type of fight. Or if you're someone like Rafael dos Anjos, for example, who we also saw actually smother Nate Diaz. But if you have to stand with Nate Diaz, if you're not someone that's known for that type of fighting, for wrestling, someone like Conor McGregor or someone like Anthony Showtime Pettis, and you have to stand with Nate Diaz, you must contend with the fact that you're going to have to deal with his chin and his conditioning. And this is really difficult to deal with because when you think about a fight, it's usually the two things that you're going to find people vulnerable at. One, you're able to stop them, or two, you're able to get them tired. If you're fighting someone that you cannot stop and someone that you cannot get tired, you're fighting someone that's not human. You're fighting a robot. You're fighting someone with no weaknesses. Because these are the two paths to victory. Get someone tired, you're able to beat them. You knock them out, stop them somehow, you're able to beat them. But for some reason, Nate Diaz is able to bypass these two. Now, those are not the only two things that you have to worry, of course, when you're fighting Nate Diaz. He has very good boxing. That's not just it. If you decide to take the man down to the ground, you have to contend with a fighter that's very, very proficient with grappling. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and a very good one at that. So overall, fighting Nate Diaz is no joke. It is not a joke at all, and that is why his opponent, Jorge Masvidal, makes this whole entire fight extremely exciting because we know for sure that he's not going to go through the path of least resistance. He's not going to just take down Nate Diaz and, smother him from the top and stop him from doing anything. This is a man that's going to fight Nate Diaz where he is the absolute best. Now, with Masvidal, we have a very interesting character there as well. For a while, Masvidal had this thing where he would go into a fight, he'll start doing well, and then he begins to coast. He does not actually have that aggression, and because of that, he lost a lot of fights by split decision. A lot of fights that he himself actually believes that he should have won. Now, what we've seen from the man is we've seen a complete switch. Not a switch in tactic, not a switch in skill. We've not seen him grow exponentially with his, mixed martial arts skills. What we see is a switch in mentality. The man woke up one day and just decided, I'm no longer going to a decision with anyone. I'm tired of losing split decisions. I'm going to start stopping opponents. And that is exactly what this man has done. His last two fights have been absolutely dominating. Actually, last three fights. He fought Cowboy Cerrone, stopped him. Fought Darren Till, stopped him. And of course, he fought Ben Askren, stopped him in what is now the fastest KO in all of UFC, in the UFC history. So what you have is you have a man in Nate Diaz who is extremely durable in part because of his conditioning and also genetics. And then you have, on the other hand, Jorge Masvidal, a man who has decided that he's going to end every single opponent that steps in the octagon with him. And for the first time, people, we actually have a fighter with the capacity and capability of actually stopping Nate Diaz. Now, the last two guys that Nate Diaz has been in there with, Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor had the ability to stop him. We saw him demonstrate that in the first two fights, especially in the second fight where he was able to drop Nate quite a few times. Anthony Showtime Pettis also has the power to stop Nate Diaz, but he does not have the aggression that Masvidal comes with. With Masvidal, you're going to have an opponent that's going to rival Nate Diaz in size. He's still going to be a little bit smaller than Nate in there, but this is a welterweight as well. And this is a man that's going to have the power, the aggression, and the technique to actually stop Nate. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, and this is where we start to get into the prediction part of the video, but I do believe that if there's anyone in recent history that has fought Nate, I think Masvidal has the biggest chance of actually doing it. The last one to stop Nate, I believe, was Josh Thompson, but this was a long time ago, and it was by head kick. So, my prediction for this fight. I see the fight going very similar to the two fights that we saw Nate have versus Conor McGregor. What we saw was when the fights, actually the last few fights that Nate have been in, his fight versus Conor McGregor, as well as his fight versus Anthony Showtime Pettis. And what we see is in the beginning of the fight, Nate kind of starts out slow. His opponent gets the better of him, and then as the fight progresses, Nate gets better. He gets better because the opponent slows down. You unload everything in your arsenal on him, and this man is not going down, and he's able to come back and win. Now, that's what I feel it might happen with this fight. I believe in the early rounds, maybe round number 1, round number 2, I do believe Masvidal will be getting the better of him because he is the more well-rounded striker. He has the boxing. We've definitely seen him demonstrate that. But not just that, Masvidal also brings Muay Thai to the octagon. He's got the kicks. He also incorporates knees and elbows from time to time. And he also has the ability to take down Nate Diaz if things start to get weird on the feet. So, on the feet, I do believe early on, Masvidal is going to get the better of Nate Diaz. We're going to see him, might even see him drop Nate Diaz a few times in the early rounds. But as the fight progresses, I will not be surprised at all if Nate Diaz does what Nate does. Able to lean on you, wear you down, get the opponent tired, and win a unanimous decision. Now, my official prediction, I know I just said something that makes you think I'm predicting Nate to win. I actually think Masvidal is going to win the fight. That's my official prediction. I think what's going to happen with this fight is Masvidal is going to hurt him. He's going to outstrike him early enough in the first round, second round, third round. He's going to be able to get the better of him on the feet. And then in the 4th and 5th round, we're going to start to see Nate Diaz pick things up. But I don't think it's going to be enough to undo the amount of damage that Masvidal has done. I do believe there is going to be a point in this fight where Masvidal is going to be very, very close to stopping Nate, but Nate has the will, he's got the conditioning, he's got the chin. I do not believe he's going to be stopped, but I think it's going to be very close to getting stopped, and as the fight progresses, Masvidal would have done enough in the early rounds to seal the deal, and I believe Masvidal is going to win this fight by unanimous decision. It's going to go 5 rounds. I do not expect any of these men to be stopped in that octagon. Of course, we do not expect this to turn into a grappling match. These two guys are going to come in there and they're going to focus mostly on kickboxing, and that is exactly what to expect. So, official prediction for this fight, Jorge Masvidal wins the fight by decision, 5 rounds, hard-fought fight, but I think he has the skills on the feet. He's the better overall kickboxer. He's going to get it done. So let me know in the comment section what you guys' prediction is for this fight. Who do you think is going to get the upper hand? Masvidal, Nate Diaz? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let's open up a conversation in the comment section, and I will see you guys after the fight. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.